So I never thought I'd be posting here, but I'm honestly still shaking from the absurdity of what just went down. And I need some outside perspective because I can't wrap my head around whether I handled this wrong or if my stepdad is completely unhinged. For background, I'm 27, female, and live at home temporarily while I finish paying my student loans and saving for my own place. My mom remarried about 6 years ago to Carl, not his real name. And let's just say he's never exactly been dad material. He's not abusive or anything, but he's smug, controlling in these subtle ways, and always trying to establish dominance over me like we're some kind of weird competition. I've always kept my distance and focused on working, saving, and planning my escape. Well, a week ago, Carl asked me if I could spot him $1,000. He didn't even really explain why, just said it was a temporary loan and that I was in a good position to help out. I told him no. First of all, I don't have a spare thousand lying around. Every dollar I save is earmarked for either student loan payments or my future apartment. Second, even if I did, I would never hand it over to him because I know I'd never see that money again. When I said no, he acted like I just spat in his face. He started this speech about family helping family and how I wouldn't be where I am without the roof he provides. I told him flat out that my mom pays the majority of the bills and I contribute too. I'm not freeloading. He huffed and stormed out like a child. I thought that was the end of it. Fast forward to yesterday morning. I walked out to leave for work, and my car, that's been my lifeline for commuting to my teaching job, has a massive dent along the driver's side, like someone pulled out of the driveway at a bad angle and dragged their entire bumper across mine. Guess whose truck was parked right next to it? Yep, Carl's. I marched back inside and confronted him. And the man didn't even try to deny it. He laughed. He literally grinned and said, "Maybe now you'll think twice about withholding help when people ask." Like he crashed my car on purpose because I wouldn't hand over a loan. He said it in that mocking tone he uses when he's trying to look like the big man of the house. I saw red. I told him he owed me the repair costs. He laughed again and said I shouldn't threaten him because accidents happen all the time. But he gave himself away. He basically admitted it was deliberate. I told him he just made it impossible for me to get to work and that he needed to pay up or at least cover a rental car. He waved me off and said I was overreacting. When I called my mom at work, she was horrified, but told me to calm down and that we'd sort it out tonight. When she got home, she tried to mediate, but Carl doubled down. He said it was just an accident and that I was taking it too seriously. I told him I had students depending on me and couldn't just skip work until he decided to grow up. He shrugged. My mom begged him to apologize, but he refused. So now my car is busted, my commute is shot, and I feel like my entire stability just got yanked out from under me because my stepdad decided to teach me a lesson for not giving him money. I honestly don't know what to do. Do I file a police report? An insurance claim? Kick up a huge fight and risk blowing up my relationship with my mom? Because right now I'm stuck at home. My students are wondering why I'm not in class, and Carl is smugly walking around like the king of the castle. He thinks he's untouchable, and the worst part is he has the audacity to act like I'm overreacting while laughing in my face about it. I'm angry, humiliated and honestly scared that if I don't push back, this won't be the last time he tries to teach me a lesson. What do I even do here? Update 1. Wow, first of all, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. I honestly didn't expect that much feedback. And I've been reading through it all while trying to keep myself together. A lot of you asked for more details and told me to document everything, so I figured I'd give an update because things escalated in ways I never imagined. Let's rewind to after I made the original post. That same night, my mom and I sat down at the kitchen table to talk it out with Carl. I went in trying to be calm because I knew if I lost my cool, he'd just twist it back on me and act like I was being dramatic. But it didn't even matter. He was already smug and dismissive. I asked him one more time if he was going to take responsibility for the damage to my car. He leaned back in his chair like some sitcom villain and said, "It was an accident. I was pulling out and misjudged the distance, that's all. You're the one turning it into a soap opera." But here's the thing. He'd already laughed in my face about teaching me a lesson. So now he was backtracking because the consequences were starting to look real. My mom looked at him like she didn't even recognize the man sitting there, and could tell she wanted to believe him, but also couldn't ignore the fact that the damage on both vehicles lined up perfectly. I told him I wasn't dropping it. I said, "Fine, if you really think it was an accident, then we'll just go through insurance." And that's when he lost his composure. Suddenly he was saying things like, "Oh, don't drag outsiders into family matters," and "insurance will make it worse for everyone," which to me screamed guilt. Here's where things started getting nasty. He turned on my mom and said, "You need to control your daughter before she ruins us financially." Like, excuse me? First of all, I'm not a child. Second, he was the one who caused the damage. My mom tried to calm him down, but he just kept repeating that involving insurance or police would blow up the family. That was the moment I realized he'd rather gaslight me and guilt trip my mom than own up to what he did. And I snapped. I told him I was calling the insurance company first thing in the morning. If he didn't like it, too bad. He stormed out of the house and didn't come back until late. The next day, I followed through. I called my insurance, explained the situation. They told me to file a police report since the driver, Carl, wasn't cooperating. I went down to the station, filed the report, and gave them the photos I'd taken of the damage on both cars. The officer who took my statement didn't say much, but he definitely raised his eyebrows when I explained that Carl had admitted to doing it on purpose. By the time I got home, Carl was waiting. He must have seen me leave because he immediately asked where I'd gone. When I told him, his face turned bright red. He started yelling about how I was trying to destroy him and turn the law against family. I told him he should have thought about that before turning my car into a teaching tool. And here's the kicker, he actually said, "You should have just given me the money and none of this would have happened." That right there was the smoking gun. My mom heard it too, and she went pale and just sat down on the couch like she'd had the wind knocked out of her. For context, my mom has always defended Carl, even when he's been controlling or petty. She's been the peacemaker. But this was different. She finally saw the mask slip completely. I think hearing him admit that he tied the loan refusal to the accident broke something in her. That night, she pulled me aside and apologized. She said she believed me now and that she didn't know how to handle the situation. I told her I wasn't asking her to pick sides. I just needed her to stop enabling his behavior. She nodded, but I could tell she was torn. Meanwhile, I was scrambling to figure out how to get to work. My students rely on me, and I had already missed one day because of this. The other travel options are not too good either. Thankfully, a coworker offered to carpool until I get things sorted, which was a huge relief. But it's humiliating to have to explain to people why I can't drive my own car. Insurance has been a nightmare too. They're investigating. But because Carl is refusing to cooperate, it's dragging on. My adjuster basically told me to prepare for a fight, which means this could take weeks. In the meantime, Carl has doubled down on his smug act. He walks around the house whistling like nothing happened. He's even joked about it to my face, saying things like, "Careful, don't park too close to me again." I'm not exaggerating. He thinks he's untouchable. But here's the twist. People at his job are starting to find out. He works in a management role at a local construction company, and apparently word got around that he's under investigation for deliberately damaging my car. One of his co-workers is married to one of my colleagues, and they put two and two together. Now Carl is panicking. He's suddenly singing a different tune, telling my mom it really was an accident and that he never meant to send the wrong message. Which brings us to tonight. He cornered me in the kitchen and tried to do this half-assed apology. He said, "I'm sorry if I upset you. I didn't realize it would get this out of hand. It was just a mistake." But he said it with this fake sincerity that made my skin crawl. I told him flat out, "You admitted it wasn't a mistake. You laughed at me. You don't get to gaslight me now just because you're scared of consequences." He didn't like that. He muttered something about me being ungrateful and then stomped off. But I think he's starting to realize that his little power play blew up in his face. As for me, I'm exhausted, but determined. I'm not dropping this. My car is essential for my job. I'm not letting him bully me into silence. My mom is finally seeing his true colors, which gives me some hope. But it also breaks my heart because I know she's probably questioning her marriage right now. So yeah, that's where things stand. Police report filed, insurance battle ongoing, Carl trying to spin it as a genuine mistake because the fallout is harsher than he expected. But I'm not backing down. And if he thought this was just about money before, he's about to learn it's about accountability now. Update 2. All right, buckle up because the last few days have been absolute chaos and I'm honestly still processing everything. I thought this would just be about an insurance fight and maybe some awkward family dinners. Instead, it's like a grenade went off inside my house and everyone's scrambling to deal with the fallout. So remember how in my last update, Carl was starting to panic because word got around at his job? Well, it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. Apparently, the construction company he works for is very strict about employee conduct, especially when it comes to anything that might hint at liability issues. A manager deliberately crashing into someone's car, even if it's just family, doesn't exactly scream reliability. A couple of days ago, Carl's boss called my mom. Yeah, not even Carl, my mom. They were school friends. He said they'd received informal reports about the incident and wanted to confirm whether there was any truth to it. My mom, bless her heart, tried to downplay it at first, saying it was just a misunderstanding. But the boss pushed back and he told her that if Carl was involved in any insurance investigation or police matter, the company had a right to know. That's when my mom broke and she admitted Carl had been in an accident with my car. But she didn't go into detail. She thought she was protecting him. But the second she hung up, Carl went ballistic. He screamed at her for selling him out and accused me of dragging his career through the mud. He said I was trying to ruin his life out of spite. Let me be crystal clear. I don't give a damn about his career. I just want my car fixed and accountability for what he did. But of course, in Carl's head, this is all some elaborate scheme where I'm the villain. Anyway, later that same evening, two officers actually showed up at the house. Apparently, the report I filed, combined with the photos, combined with Carl refusing to cooperate with insurance, escalated things. They asked him directly whether he admitted fault, and the man had the audacity to smirk and say, "It was an accident, nothing more." But then, and I swear this actually happened, one of the officers asked him, "Did you or did you not tell her it was to teach her a lesson?" Carl froze. He looked like a deer in headlights. He started stammering about how it was a joke taken out of context. The officers didn't push too hard. They said it was mainly an insurance matter unless I wanted to press charges for property damage. But the way he fumbled gave everything away. I told them, yes, I do want to press charges, and that's when Carl completely lost it. He started shouting about how I was destroying the family, how I'd regret this, how he'd make sure I learned respect. The officers immediately stepped in and warned him to calm down. My mom was crying in the corner, begging everyone to stop. It was a nightmare. They left after taking more notes, and Carl stormed off again. He disappeared for most of the night, only stumbling back in around 2 a.m., smelling like whiskey. My mom and I didn't sleep. We just sat in the living room, her quietly crying and me furious but determined not to give in. The next morning, my mom admitted something I didn't expect. She said this wasn't the first time Carl had pulled lessons on people. Apparently, he once locked her out of the house because she was spending too much time with her sister instead of him. Another time he deliberately forgot to pay a bill she asked him to handle just to show her she couldn't rely on him. She brushed it off as him being petty before, but now she sees the pattern. That conversation gutted me. I realize my mom's been stuck in this toxic mess for years, constantly walking on eggshells, and I felt guilty because I'd been so focused on my own situation that I hadn't seen how deep it went for her. Fast forward to yesterday, insurance finally got back to me with their findings. They said, based on the photos and the police report, Carl was at fault. They're covering my repairs, but warned me that if Carl continues refusing to cooperate, they might pursue him directly for reimbursement, which means lawsuits, which means more pressure on him. Oh boy, he did not take that well. When I told him, he slammed his fist on the table and said, "You're going to regret this. You think you've won, but you haven't seen what I can do." My mom immediately stepped between us and told him to stop. I thought for a second he might actually hit something or someone, but he stormed out again instead. Now here's where things got unexpected. This morning, my mom packed a bag. She looked me in the eye and said, "I can't live like this anymore." She told me she's going to stay with her sister for a while to get some space from Carl. She asked me to come with her, but I said no, I want to stay and see this through with the insurance and police. But honestly, I think she needs this more than I do. She finally sees the reality of who he is, and I don't want to stand in the way of her finding clarity. Carl, of course, was furious when he noticed her suitcase. He accused me of turning her against him. He shouted about betrayal, about family being sacred, about how we're both ungrateful leeches. But the more he ranted, the more pathetic he looked. He wasn't in control anymore. He was just a bitter man watching his little kingdom crumble. Before she left, my mom whispered to me, "Don't let him bully you. You're stronger than he thinks." That almost broke me. So now it's just me in the house with Carl. Well, he and his whiskey bottles. I've locked my bedroom door and keep my important documents with me at all times. I don't trust him not to retaliate in some petty way, like messing with my stuff. I've already set up a dash cam in my car once it's back from the shop, and I'm logging everything in case things escalate further. And here's the ironic twist. Carl has suddenly started backpedaling harder than ever. Tonight he knocked on my door and said, "Listen, we got off on the wrong foot. I don't want to fight anymore. Let's just put this behind us." But his tone wasn't apologetic, it was desperate. He knows the walls are closing in. I told him, the only way this gets put behind us is if you take responsibility. Until then, I'm not backing down. He sighed, muttered something about me being impossible, and shuffled away. So that's where we are. Police involved, insurance involved, my mom gone, Carl unraveling. I don't know what the next step is, but I do know this. For the first time, he's scared. He thought he could teach me a lesson, but the only person learning anything here is him. And the lesson is this: when you try to control people through intimidation, eventually it blows up in your face. I'll keep you all updated as things progress, but for now, I'm just trying to stay safe and keep my mom safe and hold the line. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's me again. I didn't expect to be writing another update so soon, but things escalated in a way I couldn't ignore. And I know a lot of you wanted to see how this all turned out. Buckle in, because this is the big one. So quick recap for anyone skimming. My stepdad, Carl, asked me for a $1,000 loan. I refused. He deliberately crashed into my car to teach me a lesson, and then tried to play it off as an accident when consequences started piling up. Insurance and police get involved. My mom finally saw his true colors, and she left to stay with her sister while I stayed at the house. That was the situation when I last updated. I thought that was the peak of the drama. Oh, how wrong I was. The day after my mom left, Carl started acting weird. Not just his usual self, more like a man unraveling. He'd stomp around, muttering under his breath, slamming doors, drinking more than usual. I tried to avoid him, staying locked in my room or at work, but the tension was suffocating. Then 2 nights ago, it all came to a head. I was in my room, grading papers, when I heard this loud thud outside, like someone had kicked the trash cans. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone and went to check the window. And there he was, Carl, standing by my car in the driveway, holding what looked like a crowbar. My dash cam was already set up, thanks to some of your advice, and I knew it would catch whatever he did, but I wasn't about to let him destroy my only transportation again. I ran outside yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" He froze, crowbar halfway raised, and then, I kid you not, he smirked. He said, "Just making sure you really understand who's in charge here." That was it. My fear flipped straight into rage. I told him I was calling the cops right then and there. He laughed and said, "They won't believe you. It's your word against mine." But guess what? Dashcam doesn't lie. I pointed straight at it, blinking red, recording everything. His face dropped. I called the police while standing right there in the driveway, making sure he could hear every word. Carl tried to backpedal, saying he was just moving something and that I was overreacting again. But the damage was done. When the cops showed up, I handed them the dash cam footage. They watched it right there on the spot. And let me tell you, watching Carl's face as the officer replayed him raising a crowbar at my car was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. The officers didn't just shrug it off this time. They told me this crossed from insurance matter into potential criminal charges, attempted property damage, intimidation, maybe even harassment, since it was clearly retaliatory. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I didn't hesitate. Yes. Carl tried to argue, saying it was out of context and that he was just clearing space in the driveway. But the footage was damning. They cuffed him right there. My jaw nearly hit the ground. I never thought I'd actually see him hauled away in handcuffs, but it happened. The silence after the squad car drove off was unreal. For the first time in years, the house felt safe. I called my mom immediately and told her everything. At first, she was quiet, like she couldn't even process it. Then she started crying. She said she knew he had issues, but she never thought he'd go that far. I could hear the heartbreak in her voice. Next day, she came back to the house briefly, but not to reconcile with Carl. She came to pack the rest of her things. She told me she'd already spoken to her sister about divorce lawyers, and hearing that word, divorce, made me realize how serious she was. She hugged me and said, I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. You didn't deserve any of this. This almost broke me. For so long, I'd been carrying the frustration of her always defending him, and now she was finally admitting she'd been blind to his toxicity. It was both painful and healing at the same time. On the practical side, my insurance company called yesterday to confirm they're officially holding Carl liable for the damages. Since he's now facing criminal charges, they said they'll be pursuing reimbursement from him directly, which means if he thought this was just going to blow over, he's in for a rude awakening. My car's already in the shop, and thankfully the dash cam evidence sped up the claim process. I've been using the rental they covered to get to work. They don't know the details, obviously, but they can tell something heavy was going on. Before you ask, yes, he tried to apologize, or at least his version of one. His lawyer, yeah, he got one fast, reached out through my mom to encourage reconciliation. He claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that he never intended to damage my car, that he was just venting frustration. But here's the thing. This isn't just about one smashed car anymore. This is about a pattern of control, intimidation, and cruelty. This is about a man who thought he could bully me into submission and laugh in my face when I pushed back. His apology doesn't mean anything when every action screams the opposite. So I told my mom to tell his lawyer the truth. I won't be dropping the charges, period. Since then, the house has been quiet. My mom is staying with her sister permanently. I'm making plans to move into an apartment closer to work. Carl hasn't been back, thankfully, and given the restraining order I filed yesterday, he legally can't come near me anyway. And I've been given time to move out of the house. It feels surreal. For years, this man held the house hostage with his ego. He thought he was untouchable, that we'd all bend to his rules, but the second someone stood their ground and documented the truth, his entire facade crumbled. And honestly, I'm proud of myself. I didn't let him scare me into silence. I didn't break down when he laughed at me or tried to gaslight me. I held the line, and now the consequences are his to face. I won't pretend it's all tied up neatly. My mom has a long road ahead dealing with the divorce. I'm still juggling insurance paperwork and court dates, and emotionally I'm drained, but there's a weight lifted too, like I can finally breathe. Carl thought crashing my car would teach me a lesson about respect. But in the end, the lesson was for him. You can't manipulate and bully people without consequences. And if anyone out there is dealing with someone like this, please document everything. Get the dash cam, take the photos, keep the receipts, because people like Carl will twist reality until they're backed into a corner. And the only way to protect yourself is with cold, hard proof. So yeah, that's the conclusion for now. Carl is facing charges. My car's getting fixed again. My mom's leaving him, and I'm finally moving towards the independent life I've been saving for. It's messy. It's painful, but it's progress. And to everyone who told me to stand my ground, thank you. You gave me the push I needed to fight back, and I don't think I'd be here without that support. If Carl thought he was teaching me a lesson, he got it backwards. The only thing he taught me was how important it is to never let someone's toxic behavior go unchecked. I'm closing this chapter now. Update 4. Hey everyone, just wanted to close the loop. It's been about a month since everything blew up and a lot has happened. My mom officially filed for divorce, and she told me she felt free the moment she handed over the paperwork. She's been staying with my aunt and already looks lighter, like a weight's been lifted off her shoulders. She even joked the other day that she can finally watch what she wants on TV without Carl sulking about it. Small things, but they matter. As for Carl, he's still facing charges for property damage and harassment. His job suspended him pending the outcome, and from what I hear, he's not exactly a hot topic at the company anymore. Apparently his big man act doesn't play well when there's legal trouble attached. My car's fully repaired, insurance came through. I've officially put in a down payment for an apartment closer to work. Moving next week. Feels like I'm finally stepping into the independence I've been working towards. I don't have to look over my shoulder in my own home anymore. The biggest shift, though, has been with my mom. For years, I worried that she'd never see Carl for who he really was. Now she not only sees it, but she's taking action. That alone makes everything I went through worth it. So, yeah, Carl lost his marriage, his reputation, and his control. My mom and we're moving forward, stronger than before. Thanks to everyone who encouraged me to stand firm. You gave me the courage to push through, and with that, I think this chapter is officially closed. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.